Listeners, now that spring is here, and right now I'm at fruit bloom, blue sky. About 3 times a day I get up and I make the 75-yard walk back to my bee yard. So if it sounds like I've got one long, it's because I'm plodding along through grass that I should have mown. To get to my bee yard, one of the ways you can do it is go through my storage barn. It's filled full of stuff, bee stuff, tractor stuff, tiller stuff. Stay on the path, don't get off. Go out the back door, and here I am. Oh man, weeds and grass wait for no beekeeper, do they? Bees wait for no beekeeper. Dandelions everywhere. I want to tell you that I do this a lot. I'm actually got distracted for a minute just looking. I come out every time, and I always bring a camera just because you never know what you're going to see. And I always just check the entrance and to see what the bees are doing. And more, I've gotten to where I check out the empty equipment, the equipment that just sits there. Because right there is a bee on the landing board of an empty colony. And you know, I'd like to just ask the little bee, what are you doing? So, as I walk around here, let me tell you that I'm Jim Tew, and I'm coming to you from Honeybee Obscura, where about once a week we talk about something to do with bees. And today, I'm just going to visit my bee yard and tell you what I see on this early spring day.
Welcome to Honeybee Obscura, brought to you by Growing Planet Media, the producers of the Beekeeping Today podcast. Join Jim Tew, your guide through the complexities, the beauty, the fun, and the challenges of managing honeybees. Jim hosts fun and interesting guests who take a deep dive into the intricate world of honeybees. Whether you're a seasoned beekeeper or just getting started, get ready for some plain talk that'll delve into all things honeybees.
Listeners, this is a nice colony. So of the 5 hives that are here, this one appears to be the boomer. I haven't opened these colonies really yet, and now in quite a while since late winter. This is really an active colony, and as I look across the neighborhood with things in bloom everywhere, and you see this colony doing this kind of thing, with all this activity, then you know fairly quickly that this is going to be a swarming colony if I don't do something. So just watching them come and go, drones, orientation, a lot of pollen collectors returning. Kim always liked to say that for every pollen-loaded bee you saw come back, that was one baby bee in the process of being grown. So I'm getting bright orange pollen and bright yellow pollen. A lot of that's from fruit bloom. I don't know where the orange pollen's from. Grass in my apiary needs cutting. Last year I bought a walk behind string trimmer. Got to get that thing out because the grass gets so tall so fast. At first I thought, listeners, why worry about it? It's my bee yard. I'm the only one back here. But the thing is, I can't walk. So if I don't keep the grass knocked down, I'm unable to walk carrying boxes and whatever, and I just have to do it. And plus, I'm not the only thing back here. There's groundhogs and raccoons. And I've tried to talk in the past about the things that live in my bee yard besides bees. It seems to set up quite a community. This colony I'm looking at now is sitting directly on the ground. I've got to do something, listeners. I've just got to do something to get it off the ground. But this was a colony that I just stacked the equipment up. I was going to come back to it. You see, I've had 2 storms in this yard. Right now, I could never, ever have you visit here. It looks horrific because I've had 2 storms that took out trees and destroyed part of my fence, and then COVID my own health and other issues, and I've just not been able to get back to it. But I will get back to it. In the meantime, what did I tell you? The bees wait for no beekeeper. So they found this equipment as a swarm, and they moved in. I probably shouldn't get off on this. I'd like to talk about it more formally at some time, but I don't know where these swarms come from. I mean, you'd think you'd know every beekeeper in the community, but I know where some bees are. So when I pick up a bee swarm that's not mine right away, I think, well, I know whose bees these are. But I really don't. A lot of prominent people have researched swarming, and really we've come a long way in our understanding of the biology. But more often than not, I don't know how far those swarms flew to get here. And the other thing is, with no science whatsoever, none, I've noticed a close relationship between robbing and apparently scouting. Because on 3 separate occasions, some of my equipment was being robbed out, and then on those specific 3 occasions, a swarm moved in. Well, when the swarm moved in, of course, the robbing, for the most part, apparently stopped. It seemed to me that it stopped. So what I'd like to ask you, listeners, is do you think that mixed in all those robbers are actually scouts who are surveying a situation for a future nest site, while other bees are looting the honey that's left? It's like 2 games afoot at one time. So one set of bees is just cleaning up the residue from an abandoned colony, while other bees are looking at it as a proper home site for the next cycle. Because on those 3 separate occasions, that robbing was going, fairly obviously, bees coming, bees going, erratic flight, kind of typical robbers. And then a day or so, 2 later, there would be a swarm that had moved in there. And then the robbing seems to have shut down. So I can't answer my own question then if this is even an issue. Are the bees, once they take over the colony, are they able to stop it? So I don't know if those robbers stop because there's a new tenant. Do the tenants defend it? Or is there some unspoken rule? So I want to reiterate, I have no science. I only have maybe 3 observations. And I've long since mentioned in articles and in other places, probably one of these podcasts, that I am unable to tell the difference between a robber and a scout in most cases. The robber is supposed to have that furtive, defensive behavior, and the scout is supposed to be pensive and more engineer-like in its mentality as it measures and checks and evaluates this particular site to go back and give a sales pitch for this being the place to go. We'll walk back to a swarm that's just moved in this season, and we'll see how they're doing. So let's take a break and hear from our sponsor.
Ready to take your beekeeping skills to the next level? Dive into Bee Culture, the magazine of American beekeeping, where each month you'll get expert insights, equipment tips, varroa control strategies, and sprinkles of humor from Stephen Bishop and Ed Colby. Exclusively for Honeybee Obscura listeners, subscribe now at beeculture.com for just $35 a year. Use the code PODCAST for a special bundle offer. Receive your hard copy delivered monthly, along with full online digital access. Bee Culture, your ultimate beekeeping partner. Join our buzzing community today. Give your buzzing buddies the ultimate upgrade with Bettercomb. Accelerate your bee colony's growth and honey production with our innovative solution. Made from a synthetic wax that mirrors the qualities of natural beeswax, Bettercomb offers a clean slate for your bees to thrive without any pesticide or disease residue. Don't compromise on quality. Opt for Bettercomb and watch your colonies flourish. Learn more at betterbee.com/bettercomb.
I don't want to get all sappy on you listeners, but it's a beautiful day. Blue sky, and against the blue sky is these pear blossoms, and across the way in my neighbor's yard, there's his crabapple, pink blossoms everywhere, grass is green. It's really, really good to be able to just come back out and look at my bees again, even if you don't do anything. I guess that I'm lazy, or old, or both, but I do this a lot. You just stand here and you look. Do you see any bees on the grass with twisted wings? Because if you do, that's pretty late in the game, and whatever I was doing for my mic control program wasn't working. No. Happily, I don't see any of that right now. On this one colony is one of the 3 that I was telling you about that went through and looted some honey, or I guess they looted honey. I didn't open the colony at the time because it was late last winter. This colony died. So on the landing board is probably 1/3 of a cup of wax capping residue where they've stripped that colony out. So for a day or two, there was just clouds of bees around this thing, robbing the honey that was there. And then I missed it. I really would have enjoyed seeing it. But I came out later in the day, and there was obviously a swarm. Why would I say obviously, listeners? Because I don't know that anyone's ever said this, but I do it. When I'm trying to decide, is this bees that have taken up residence here, or are these bees that are just looting the remnants that are left, I look for bees that are scenting or fanning or both. So if I can see bees that have their Nasonov gland exposed on the tip of their abdomen, those bees are putting up a scent pheromone that tells other bees how to find the entrance there. So I don't think robber bees are going to be trying to recruit others. I don't know that they are. Maybe they are, but I doubt it. So I look for scenting, or I look for fanning, as though they're trying to cool the colony. But the big one, the big thing I look for, is multiple pollen foragers returning. So maybe a successful pollen collector is called astray and decides to check out this seemingly bountiful supply of free honey. But if I see a pollen collector, another pollen collector, a pollen collector, no. Those bees are working steadfastly to bring back pollen because they've got a brood nest in there. So that happened. There was robbing going on. Clouds of bees everywhere, and then somehow this swarm moved in, and it's an okay swarm, but it's not huge. Compared to the colony I told you that's going to swarm when I first came out, maybe 1/3 the amount of activity. Why haven't I had a look? Because I wanted to stabilize and to establish themselves, get a brood nest set up. I don't want to rip into them and have them decide that they've made a bad decision and then abscond. So normally when a swarm moves in, I don't bother them for 3 to 4, 5 days until they get their new life set up. It's cool today too, even though I gave you all that sappy response about what a great day it is. It's probably not much more than 45 or 50 degrees, but it's so clear and it's a still day till everybody's flying and fairly happy here. So it looks like that swarm moved in, and one way or another, like somebody hit a switch, the clouds of robbers went away. All right, answer me this. Did the robbers go away because so much else came into bloom that the reward was more bountiful to go forage on all these apple blooms that I can see as I look around the neighborhood, as compared to the pittance of resources that was left in this box? Is that why the robbing stopped? Was because the resources came on and offered more of a reward? I don't know. But before I move away from this discussion completely, I came out 2 days later, after I told you that I don't bother the bees until they've settled down, the swarm until it's settled for a few days. Well, I was so excited. I've kept these bees for years and years. I'm over 50 years now. And it's still exhilarating to come out and see that you've done nothing. You meant to clean this equipment up and get it ready for whatever you're going to use it for, but you just hadn't done it yet. Not to worry, because the bees have taken over that job themselves. Why don't you ask me if it was my bees? Well, there's not but one colony here of the 5 that I'm talking about in this yard that's really strong enough to swarm, and it, just looking by the entrance activity right now, it hasn't swarmed yet, but it's going to. I came out a few days later, and the air was just full of bees. Every entrance that this box has just had bees going crazy, and I thought, oh my stars, they're leaving. But if you look, there's all my cues. They're scenting, they're fanning, there's pollen collecting coming in. I just can't explain why all these bees are in the air. So then, wanting to have some kind of hypothesis, I decided that a second swarm was moving in. And then I wondered, can that happen? If housing locations are that tight, will one swarm move in on another? I know Africanized bees used to do that, but I don't know that European bees do it that often. And while I was standing here ruminating, I noticed you could just distinctly tell that they're going back in. And listeners, within sight of 12 minutes, 15 at the most, everything looked exactly normal again. It appeared to be about the same population, so I don't know what happened. Did they all take an orientation flight at the same time? Because these bees were led here by swarm scouts that directed them right to this box. So really those individual bees have not yet learned the community and the landmarks. There's a bee scenting right there. So maybe they were just all coming out at one time, making orientation flights on a good day. But they settled back down, and they're still here now. I have no idea where the bees came from. But I've talked about that over and over again in other articles, other podcasts. So what should I do? Should I go ahead to this other colony here that also was a winter kill? Or do you just let it sit here being attractive or not and see, just like fishing, if something else will come along and take that in? So I don't know how to tell you what I think I'm probably going to do is just leave it, because that's the least amount of work. Here's a lot of bees on the grass, but it's a cool day. And if you stand long enough, it's like they warm up in the sun and then they try again. My bees are up on a hive stand, and so if they miss the landing board, they drop 18 inches to the ground. What are they, tired? I don't know. Beekeepers, I hope that you don't think that I'm wasting my time and yours, but I do this a lot. I just come out to be sure that the tops haven't blown off, that I'm not seeing some kind of disease issue, that there's no chalk brute mummies coming out, that there's no swarms hanging in the typical place, that there's no oddities that the raccoons did the night before, just to check everything. And really, I come out primarily just because I love to do it. I just love to stand here and watch the bees be bees and me not bothering them. But I gotta warn you and the bees, just as soon as it warms up, I do have to open these bees up, get that colony off the ground, and be a more traditional beekeeper. Thank you for listening. If you made it this far, I'll look forward to talking to you next week. This is Jim telling you bye.